everybody, so we have a fun review today as we're discussing The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever expect we'd be getting another installment. Growing up, I was a massive fan of this franchise, reading the books, going to see all the films opening night. The first Hunger Games came out when I was graduating high school, so I have a lot of nostalgia towards this franchise. And I must admit, it was delightful rewatching all 4 films to lead up to this prequel. Set 64 years before Katniss Everdeen volunteered as tribute, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes follows a young Coriolanus Snow, reluctantly assigned to mentor a tribute from District 12 Lucy Gray Baird. After her charm captivates him and Panam, he battles against his instincts on whether or not he'll ultimately become a songbird or a snake. I do have to get a confession off my chest. While I love this franchise wholeheartedly, I did not read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It's my own stubborn fault. I take full responsibility. Back when this book debuted 3 years ago, the idea of a prequel centered around President Snow was something that just didn't interest me back then. But after how this film came together, they sucked me right back into the world, and I love what this prequel had to offer story-wise. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes excels perfectly at expanding upon the dystopian world that we know with a darker tone and compelling story. It's almost reminiscent of Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2, and the darker tone both of those films had with its level of intensity and brutality, especially in The Hunger Games itself, given the fact this is not the Hunger Games from those 4 Hunger Games films that we're used to. A lot of what you see in this film is them still trying to figure out things and work out the kinks. It's far more brutal, much less theatrical, and yet still so thrilling returning to this world after so many years. Despite the stripped down, more bare-bones capital, it still feels like the world that we all knew and loved watching those first 4 Hunger Games films. And I can't deny that I did feel a bit of nostalgia in that way, even if we are following a character like Coriolanus Snow his younger years. Obviously, if you're a longtime fan of the franchise, you understand how much of a menace Snow would become in those 4 films. The way it weaves together this character study of sorts for him in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is riveting, largely due to Tom Blyth's performance as a younger version of Snow. Almost at times in the film, I would argue that the story has you almost rooting for his character. While he is this mentor to Lucy and develops this bond with her, his moral compass does begin to crumble and leads him down a much more sinister path. It's something that puts into perspective a lot more about this character at large, and just how much more of a complex character he actually is. And you couple that with an excellent performance from Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray Baird. I think by far this is my favorite performance of hers so far. There inevitably are going to be a whole lot of comparisons between her character and Katniss Everdeen, and I would say arguably they are very different characters, but both fantastic in different ways. Rachel Zegler excels so well bringing the character of Lucy Gray Baird to life in each sequence that she's in. She captivates you with her rebellious theatrical nature, her lively personality, but she also is able to convey the serious, intense stakes of the predicament that she's put into the middle of. And for good measure, because Rachel Zegler is a phenomenal singer, she does have a lot of great musical performances in the movie. Surprising amount of singing, I might add. Not that I'm complaining, because it all sounded great, particularly the Hanging Tree song. The major thing that kept me invested all throughout this film is the fact that Rachel Zegler and Tom Blyth have flawless chemistry together. It was captivating how Lucy and Coriolanus' dynamic was portrayed. Even if I pretty much knew where everything was going, I thought every twist and turn was perfectly executed. Film at large has a perfect cast. Peter Dinklage is absolutely phenomenal. Hunter Schaefer as Tigress, I think, is perfection. Every scene that she's in, she makes the most out of it, and I like how they fleshed out her character more, because we didn't get to see a whole lot of her in the Mockingjay films. Plus, Jason Schwartzman is so hilarious in this entry. But we have to talk about Viola Davis. Viola Davis is one of the best actresses of all time, and she just eats up this role amazingly in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. She's so effortlessly devious, and I loved everything about it. And as I alluded to earlier, The Hunger Games itself in this movie is so different, but I love how different it is. All of those sequences were intense, brutal, and awesome to finally see visualized after only hearing descriptions about what the games were like back then. A huge credit has to go to Francis Lawrence, who returns to the franchise because he did direct Catching Fire in Part 1 and Part 2 of Mockingjay. Francis Lawrence, in my opinion, is a quite underrated director. Even despite this movie being set 60 plus years in the past, look, tone, and feel of everything does feel right in line with everything that we've seen before. Now, there certainly were parts in the movie where it started to lose me a bit. This is quite a long film. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes, minutes, the longest film in the entire franchise. I do definitely feel like there's a couple parts in the middle where stuff starts to drag a bit that they could have cut out. But I do understand, as there is a lot of material to cover. You definitely could go into this film not having seen the other 4 Hunger Games films and still have an idea of what's going on. But I would say it for sure is a much more satisfying experience if you were a big Hunger Games fan. While I don't necessarily know how the book ends, and honestly, after how much I enjoyed the film, I'm probably going to go back and read it now, I feel like the first 2/3 of this movie are a whole lot better than the last act or so. It's not a bad third act by any means, but by the time we get to the third act, things start to feel a little bit rushed. But that's just how I felt when it comes to wrapping everything up. All around though, I had a great time with the Hunger Games, The Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes. It's a fantastic return in prequel form to the Hunger Games universe, and that perfect blend of nostalgia if you're a longtime fan of the franchise. But I've heard my thoughts on the Hunger Games, The Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes. Make sure you share your thoughts down below. How'd you feel about the film? Did you like the film? Did you not like the film? Share all your thoughts in the comment section down below, because part of the fun is to have that conversation with you guys in the comment section. Thank you guys, as always, for the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. For next time, I'll see you guys later.